Welcome to Make Shit Happen. Our guest today is Bun B. Bun B, thank you for taking the ride. Thank you for coming to the show, man. Thank you for.
I'm happy to be here. I love the name. This is like one of the best names ever for a podcast.
I appreciate it, man.
I love it.
Thank you. So you were born as Bernard Freeman, and then you changed your name to Bun B. Nobody know. I didn't even know till today your name was Bernard Freeman.
Yeah.
I just know you as Bun B. How did that happen?
So my initial my family's nickname for me is Bunny.
Okay.
That was my family nickname for many years. When I decided to become a rapper, and this was in like maybe 88, I decided to become a rapper. And one of my best friends at the time, his name's Sharan. Sharan was like, okay, well, you could be a rapper, but you can't call yourself Bunny, like MC Bunny or nothing like that. So he gave me the name Bun B. So he's the guy that gave me the name Bun B.
So because short Bunny to Bun.
Yes.
Gotcha. And you were, so this was back in Port Arthur.
Yes.
Okay, so you grew up in Port Arthur. You stayed in Port Arthur until when?
Till graduation night. I moved out graduation night. I realized that music was what I wanted to do. My parents were not happy about it because I had to like rescind my scholarship for school, and they had big plans on me because, you know, my older brothers, unfortunately, all went to prison at one point or another, right? And so my second oldest didn't go to prison, but he had a court case, so he had like 7 years probation. So no one had ever gone to college. No one had ever really done anything. And so my mom had put a lot on me to like be that kid that's successful. And I didn't want to let my mom down. But at the same time, I knew that music was my true passion, my true love at the time. So I was like, well, I'll just take a year, right? Put it into music. And if not, if the music doesn't work, I can always retake my ACTs, go back to college and kind of get back on the same course I was before. And within a year, probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks before that year was up, we ended up signing a record deal.
Okay.
So a major record deal. So at that point, there was no turning back.
And that was because y'all had a group called Four Black Ministers.
Yeah, that was in high school.
That was in high school.
Yeah.
And then you ended up you and Pimp C made your own UGK.
Yeah.
And so you did that record deal with you solo or
no,
you
that
and
was
Pimp
with
C?
me and Pimp. So
okay.
So Pimp was in it before Pimp and I were in a group. Pimp was in a group with another guy, Mitchell, and they were the original UGK.
Okay.
And then we all, then the group that I was in and the guy that he was partners with all got together. So that's where 4BM comes in because it's 4 guys total. But then the other 2 guys decided that they wanted to do other things. They wanted to basically do sports. So the guy that was partners with Pimp ended up with a football scholarship to the same university his dad went to. So he wanted to be a part of that tradition and legacy in his family. And then the other guy that I was in a group with was trying to be a football player like the other guy was. So he was like, I'm going to concentrate on sports, so hopefully I can get a scholarship like Mitchell did. So that just left me and Chad. And when we brought the demo to Big Time Records, we couldn't be 4BM because there was only 2 of us. So we ended up going back to getting that UGK name.
So where did the UGK? So the UGK was because Chad was with the other guy,
Mitchell, who actually came up with the name initially.
Okay, perfect. So then now y'all got a record deal.
Yep.
And what was next?
Man, it was a lot of learning, you know what I'm saying? Because we were young, we were hungry, we just wanted to make music, you know what I'm saying? The guy that signed us initially, the independent record company, Big Time Records, he didn't know, he owned a store, so he knew about the retail side of the music industry, but not necessarily how to put a record together, how to get it out and all of that. He just knew how to sell it. And so we all went through a big learning curve in those first couple of months trying to figure it out. We did really good independently. We sold over 50,000 of the first project independently. That's when the larger record company, Jive, comes in and makes a deal with them for us. And then, but they took advantage of both us as artists and of him as a record company. And so the contracts were really bad. You know, they gave us some money up front, but the contracts were really bad. The attorney that we hired was a former attorney of theirs. So we thought that attorney would help us, but that attorney ended up helping them.
Wow.
In the contract side of everything. And it took years to even get out of that contract. But then we ended up getting with a guy who swore that he could get us out of it. So we left the small record company, went with the other guy's management team. He was worse than anything. Like, he was a big setback to us. Stole money, hid money, basically fed us to the feds, right? So like, he wasn't keeping any records for the group, any records for the money. that he was receiving, but he was writing it off for himself personally. But it kept me and Pimp as the group in debt to the IRS. So then that just became this whole crazy thing. So a lot of the early years, while we were still making really good music, becoming very popular, we went through like a ton of legal issues that took us years to get out of. The contract we signed in 92, we did amendments all the way up until, I would say, 2006.
Wow.
We were constantly amending that contract. And, but we learned a lot. We tried to make sure that the next guys that came up after us, we gave them as much information as they could get, so they could eventually get better deals than we had and take better advantage of the opportunity than we could. But I mean, I wouldn't change anything, man. I really enjoyed it. Me and Pip, we made some amazing music, classic albums. I still get love for this stuff. I mean, it's been 28 years since we put our first album out.
Yeah.
And I still go to clubs and perform that music to this day, and people love it and appreciate it, man. It's crazy.
I saw, I watch you. You pop up on my Instagram every time you go live. And, and I saw Saturday night you played in Pimp C's Memory.
Yes.
And your first song was Cocaine in the Back. Yeah. in the back of my ride. And I never knew that there was some melody from Marley. Yeah.
I told the story.
You said the
were
story
there at the beginning. Yeah.
No, I was there in the beginning. I got on right when you said it. I got on right there, and I saw that his wife would not let y'all say cocaine.
Right.
So
we ended up losing his sample. Yeah, a lot of times.
If you don't mind, can you tell the story?
Yeah. So one of the songs that we recorded when we were independent on the first record company was called "Cocaine in the Back of the Ride," and we had sampled Bob Marley and the Wailers. But it was independent. We didn't necessarily get the sample cleared or any of that. But when we signed the major deal with Jive, they wanted to redistribute the music we had originally put out. And so all of that stuff had to go through clearances, right? And what a clearance is basically when you sample someone's music, whoever owns the music, you have to get the rights from them to use that music. And so luckily Bob Marley, and the crazy thing is many artists don't own their music. Mm-hmm. Like probably 70% of the artists who create music don't own their music. At some point they end up either, like if you're a singer, most singers don't write the songs they sing. Mm-hmm. So they don't get paid for the songs that they sing. They only get paid when they perform it and for it being on the album, but they don't make the bulk of the money, right? So songs are half owned by the person that creates the music and the person that writes the words.
Okay.
Right? So if you don't produce music and you don't write songs, your ownership of your music is minuscule, if any. Some people record music and they don't own any parts of it. That's why somebody as popular as like a Tony Braxton or TLC ends up bankrupt because they weren't writing the songs and they weren't producing the music. And so when it came time to clear this song, we reached out to the Bob Marley estate, which was run by his wife, Rita Marley. And so Rita was like, we want to support young black artists. We would love to clear the sample, but Bob was totally against cocaine. So I can't put his music with a song that speaks about cocaine. Now, if you want to call it Weed in the Back of My Ride, that's cool. We can do that. But if you're going to keep it as cocaine, you can't use Bob's music. So we ended up having to change the music for that song. And so that's the version that people hear on the album.
Got you. So that's what the whole backdrop was about.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it and I was like, man, I never knew that, so.
And people sample my music now, so I make money off of that. And when somebody wants to use my music, they have to contact us. Like right. Travis Scott last year used something from one of our songs, so they reach out. Maxo Cream, different people reach out to get permission, and we don't care. If young guys do what you got to do because we did it.
So the advantage of making your own music is that you can have a little longevity of making
absolutely.
money, earning opportunity.
Yeah, so this is the reason why most of these record companies and publishing companies bought out. Like, so what it is, like you're a young artist, right? So for us, we had publishing rights for our writing, and a publishing company offered us $50,000 each for the rights to our publishing. We didn't know what publishing meant at the time. And so we signed it. We gave away all the rights to all our publishing for $50,000 a piece. But we ended up sampling Bill Withers' record, Use Me Up. And Bill Withers said, I'm not going to clear the record until I talk to the group. I want to talk to the group. And so they put us on a phone call with Bill Withers, and Bill Withers was like, do you understand why you have to ask me to use this song? And we were like, because it's your song. He's like, no, because I own the song. It doesn't matter if it's my song and I did it. It's because I own the song. I co-produced the song and I wrote all the lyrics. So I still own that song. He said, but a lot of my earlier music, I don't own anymore because the man that taught the guy that signed you stole my publishing. He says, so the guy that signed you probably set you up for your publishing to be sold as well. And we were like, yeah, we sold it for ASC. And that's the problem. He said, when you get older and you can't perform this music or you're not making as much music as you normally do, that's how you'll get paid. When that stuff plays on the radio. And even now, like it's all there, because initially it was only if radio stations played your music and if somebody went in a record store and bought your music, that was the only way you made money. Okay. But now you have all these different streaming services. You have, YouTube, TikTok, all of this different stuff where you can gain revenue for this music. They also put music in TV shows. They put music in movies, movie trailers. So you could put one song out and get paid 10, 12 different times from all of these different places. You know, it's the same way that every Christmas you hear the Mariah Carey song, right?
Yes.
So that song gets licensed out to all of these different companies, all of these different movies. So she makes a ton of money through Christmas because her song comes back out and everybody starts to play it and it ends up on every TV show and every movie. And that's why Mariah Carey just sit back and doesn't even really make a lot of music anymore because Mariah Carey wrote most of the songs that you heard her sing.
Right.
So she wrote that Christmas song.
That's what my question was going to be. So Mariah owns that.
She owns that
If she would have
song.
sold it to a publishing company, guess what?
They would say if they would have gave her $10 million for that song, right? 13 years ago, right? That song probably generates $4 to $6 million every holiday season.
Wow. Because people all around the world are listening
Everybody's listening to it. It's the number one Christmas song probably for the past 10 years. It's really the only Christmas song that matters on that kind of a scale, right? Yeah. It's not really about jingle bells and all of that. You know it's Christmas when you hear da-dun, 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 I want. That's when you know it's Christmas. Yeah. When you start hearing Mariah Carey song. That's the signal.
That's the signal. Yeah, I mean, and that's why Mariah's not making a lot of music.
No, she doesn't have to. She's stupid rich. Mariah Carey is very, very wealthy.
Really?
Yes.
Is it like probably bigger than anybody on that level who have like a woman singer?
Because she's doing all the writing. That's the difference, right? Mariah Carey wrote pretty much all the records that you heard her. It was either her by herself or her and like Jermaine Dupri or Jonte Austin. But I would say probably 70 to 75% of the music that you've ever heard Mariah Carey sing, she wrote it. Like the first song, I Got a Vision of Love, she wrote that. She wrote that whole album. And so she's very hands-on with her legacy.
Gotcha.
And
then she got paid by her ex-husband or whatever.
She was married to
she was married to that guy,
Tommy Mottola.
Yeah. Well, the last one I'm talking about.
But that I don't think that like, the first husband is she got a lot of money from. So she was married to the head of I want to say Tommy was the head of Sony at one time. So she married Tommy Mottola when she was very young. Left him. Then I think she married Nick Cannon. Yeah. Left him, and then there was some billionaire. Right.
And then she got the money from him because she said.
I don't even know if she even got any money because did they actually get married?
Yeah, they got married. I think, or didn't get married. She said he wasted his time, so I think he wrote her a check for 40, 50 million. That was something. It was on there, which hey, it's found money.
Hey man, look, if you can get it, good for you.
Good for you. So now, Bun B, you. Tell me what kind of magnitude did that Jay-Z song, the one that you and Pimp C were featured in, Big Pimpin', what did that do to your career?
So we were already in a really good place as far as being underground, you would say street rappers, whatever you want to call it. Not a lot of commercial success, but a lot of critical acclaim. And so our biggest album in terms of sales and acclaim was Riding Dirty. And then after we did Riding Dirty, we started ending up on a lot of different people's radar. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where the calls start to come in to do bigger records with bigger artists. And eventually we get a call from Jay-Z to do Big Pimpin'. And I was all for it because I knew it was going to put us on another level, get us out to another broader audience. Pimp was kind of against it because his fear was that people who had never heard of us would hear us on this record and assume this is the kind of music we make and what we talk about. So he was very worried about being put on a larger platform only for people to misunderstand who you really are and what you represent. I eventually convinced him to do the record, and everything ended up working out in the best way possible. It gave us a lot of commercial success. Our touring stretched all around the country and eventually around the world. It's easily the most known record that I have out of everything I've done. Now, I have records that resonate deeper with people, right? But as far as I can go at any club in America and play that record, and people will know that record and dance to that record and sing that record.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a good thing to have, especially as an artist touring.
For sure, right? So you and Pimp C, you know, were there, and then I know Pimp C went to prison in 2003, and you know, and then unfortunately in 2008, you know, he passed away. I still remember that day.
Yeah.
You know, I was
2007, I think.
Was it 2007? Right. I still remember I was at the store that day, on the one on 59 Hillcroft, where I heard that he passed away, and you know, that was I'm sure to you 13 years later feels like it was yesterday.
I mean, it literally the anniversary of his passing was last Friday. That's why I did
Friday.
The thing on Saturday. And, you know, you never get over losing people. As you get older, you find ways of coping with it and dealing with it, but you never miss people. And I said it on that live. I said, you know, if I wanted to go live and play music on the anniversary, but I didn't think emotionally I would be able to handle the weight of the moment. And so I didn't do it Friday, but it's Saturday. I was like, okay, I think I'm better. I can do it on Saturday, but even still, I still didn't play like one day, right? Because I didn't want emotion to kind of take over for me in that setting. But I was happy to play the songs, and we ended up having fun, man. I pulled out some records that people hadn't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, we did a lot of record with a lot of very small independent companies around the country and artists who never really left their area, their region. So it's always fun to go back and revisit records like that, you know?
So, you know, and then that happened. Then you go back solo, and then, you know, you did the 2 Trill, and then you did the whole series of that.
Yes.
And then later on that year, you did the Trill OG following in 2010, 2013, you closed the Trill series. Why did you not do another one after that?
Well, I mean, I just, you know, I'll be honest, man. After Pimp passed away, it wasn't fun for me anymore. It became like work, right? All the other time and all the other years, I enjoyed it. We had fun making music together. Even when he went to prison, I was still able to, and I went through a very deep depression at that point. But my wife got me back in church and kind of helped me get my spirit back right and things like that. And it was always about recording, because I never wanted to be a solo artist, right? UGK is the best group you could possibly want to be in. So I never wanted to be a solo artist. I became a solo artist out of necessity because of him going to prison. But it was always under the understanding that eventually he would come home and we would go back to the group. Once he passes away, I realized that if I'm going to do music, it's going to be with the knowing that he's never going to be able to be a part of it again. And so I did it because it was my job. I had obligations contractually and stuff like that. And I make pretty good money doing it, but the personal satisfaction of making music wasn't fun anymore. So that's when I started teaching at Rice. And just doing other things, you know, just not really, you know, caring about music for a couple of years. And then one day my wife was like, look, I know you're teaching, you're doing all this stuff. Yeah, you got a job during the day, but that's not your day job. You need to get back to music. People still want to hear it. You can still do it. Because I still did like cameos and feature appearances on other people's projects. I just didn't put another album out. And was like, but it's not fun anymore. You know, she's like, well, you got to start doing music with people that are your friends so that you can have fun. And so the first person we reached out to was Big Crit, was an amazing producer, a really good friend of mine. And we have a really, really fun relationship. We really enjoy each other's company and we have fun in each other's company. And so that's who we went to first. And so that's where Return of the Trill comes from. Me going in and doing these very extended studio sessions with Big Crit. And so now I'm working with other producers that I have good relationships with. So I've done an album with Manny Fresh. We're finishing that up now. I've done, and I've started on the album. We got about 6 songs, but I got to finish an album with Cool and Dre, 2 amazing producers out of Florida. I just finished a project with a producer from here, but he's based out of Atlanta now, a guy named Corey Moe. He was actually Pimp C's production protege. So the only people that really studied under Pimp C as producers were Corey Moe and Beto, this guy named DJ Beto. And so they're the guys that got a lot of the expertise and got a lot of experience watching him in real time, picking up a lot of stuff. And so Corey and I did a full project. That'll probably be the first one that releases out of all the stuff that I'm talking about now. And I'm just, we're still trying to figure out exactly how to release this stuff. But I wanted to stay busy and keep being productive. Once I found ways to make it fun again, I just wanted to keep recording and recording. So now we're sitting on like 3-4 albums.
And then you just want to know how to do it.
But it took a while to kind of pull myself up out of that,
So that's up and coming right now.
Yeah.
Undercover. So now let me ask you a question. You said you went to go teach at Rice.
Yes.
Okay, and you were teaching hip hop. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a hip hop and religion.
That.
So it was a class on hip hop and religion. I had spoken at the class one time. Chameleonaire, which a lot of different things I do is based on the fact that Chameleonaire isn't available. So they called Chameleonaire to do the class. He was like, "I'm in LA, I can't do it, but I think you should ask Bun B to do it." And so they called me over, Dr. Anthony Penn, who taught the class initially by himself. We talked before the class. I looked at a couple of books on his shelf. We read some of the same books, and we shared a lot of different ideas and concepts about life and religion and music. Mm-hmm. And so we did the interview in the classroom, because that's what it initially was, just him interviewing me. And then he approached me not long after and said, "Man, I'd love for you, if possible, to come in and teach this course with me." And I'm not a college student. Like, I didn't even go to college, right? So I was hesitant to even do it, right? Because I'm like, I don't even know how college class is supposed to be taught.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know if I have the credit to do it. He's like, no, he says, because everything you know and everything you've learned about your culture, you can't go to school for that. He says this would be the beginning of people being able to go to school to learn the stuff that you learned in real time in the real world. And he's the most, Dr. Anthony Penn, who was over that course, he's the most tenured professor of color at Rice University. So I didn't want to mess him up, mess up his tenure on campus. But we eventually found the way to do it and present it. I did it for probably 2.5, 3 years. And it was amazing, which I did it 3 times, but it was always like a year in between. So it was over like a 5-year period of teaching. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made.
So tell me, walk me, because I'm curious right now. You went to a classroom. There's a bunch of students over there.
Yeah.
They want to learn about hip hop and religion?
Yeah, well, so most of the students in the course are going towards a religious degree or humanities degree. Mm-hmm. But we did get athletes. We got people from the business school. We got a good mixture of students going towards other majors. Some of them were curious about hip hop as a culture. Some of them were curious about seeing a rapper teach a class, but whatever the reason was, we ended up, like, the first year we taught, we had like 150 kids. So we had to teach in like an auditorium.
150 kids.
Yeah.
Okay. First year.
Yeah, first year.
Did it grow?
It didn't, because people realized that it was an actual real class and it had a lot of work.
It wasn't. They thought it was fun.
Yeah, They think you come in, I play some rap music and talk about Jay-Z and tell stories, and it wasn't about that, right? We wanted to put music in its proper historical context in America, right? And so the class is on hip hop and religion. So we put religion in its proper context in America from slavery to modern times, as well as music in America from slavery to modern times. Show the parallels between the two in terms of how people of color use them to communicate with each other, how they use them to draw bonds and commune with people. A lot of people don't even realize most of the people in your life are your friends or in your life based on the religion you practice and the music you listen to. Mm-hmm. Those are two big factors in determining who it is you allow to be in your circle, to be around you in life. And so we talk about that, and we talk about how religion for many people is the way that they learn how to deal with these large questions in life. Who are we? Why are we here? What gives life purpose? What is life? But for everyone, religion doesn't answer those questions due to the practices, due to the experience that they've had with certain people within religion. They don't find that there. So for some people, hip hop is their way of dealing with life and answering these kind of questions. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of the things that we talk about in the class.
So you're 100% right. Music does, has a big bonding thing, because, I mean, it can be anything, right? Friendship, dating, relationships. Yeah. I mean, if you are a hip hop person and the girl that you're meeting, she hates hip hop. I mean, you can't
may
ride
not
in the
work.
same car.
Yeah,
it may not work. It may not work, right? Or I mean, friends that you hang out with. I mean, if you're I mean, you gotta have some kind of bonds. Music, I always believe, truly, I've always believed that music really does unite you.
Yeah, because you'll go to a concert and you'll be around people you've never seen before, and then you all have that favorite song by that artist.
Yeah.
And when that song starts to play, you all kind of look at each other like, yo, this is why we're here. Isn't this amazing? He's playing our favorite song right now. I've been to concerts where I remember going to see George Clinton in Parliament bring the mothership back out because there had been a fundraising campaign in order for them to get enough money to bring the mothership back to their level of production that they needed for concerts. And I remember somebody just passing the joint down the aisle.
Uh-huh.
And the guy next to me hit it. He passed it to me. I hit it. I pass it down. Now, obviously, this sounds so foreign nowadays, right? Like you wouldn't take anything from anybody right now.
Right now. And I was just going to ask you that. I said, would you do it if I would have passed you something right now?
Not today.
No, not today.
Not today. Just being, no judgment, but just being smart and safe and careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way music brings people together. You go to, I've, been to the last 2 Astroworld concerts that Travis Scott has put on, and you see all of these young kids, white kids, black kids, Latino kids, Muslim children, gay kids, straight kids, everybody, right? All coming together. And when that song comes on, they all jump up and down in unison. Yeah. And you see that at every concert.
Yeah. You were saying that song and it's already playing in my head.
And they're all from different walks of life, right? Like some are poor kids in the projects, some are rich kids from River Oaks. But this is the playing field that levels life out for all of them in that one moment. And eventually they'll all go back to their life and whatever privilege or lack of privilege they don't have, but in that moment there's unity and they can commune together.
Now let me ask you a question. You said hip hop is a culture, and I believe it is, right? But it has evolved, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I was gonna say that it has evolved because now there's a lot of fluent kids, listening to it.
Well, it's always been there.
But it has completely changed. It's visible now. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot more visible.
It's
but
more
that's
visible.
always been. White people have always been the major buyer of black music. I mean, it's simply a numbers thing.
Yeah.
There's more white people here than there are people of color. So they're gonna buy more of everything. They're gonna buy more cars, they're gonna buy more furniture, right? They're gonna buy more of everything because there's simply more of them.
More of them, yeah.
Right? But I mean, even nowadays though, you look at how hip hop culture permeates through everything. There isn't a product on this planet that someone isn't selling using hip hop culture. I don't care if it's soda, clothes, everything. Maybe real estate, maybe, right? You haven't started rapping yet, so, but we may get you there, man. We may get you there. But I mean, if you look at television, man, every commercial that comes on television, if you see 20 commercials in a day, 15 of them have rap music in it.
Yeah.
Right. Even the Cheerios B is rapping and all that kind of stuff, and that's just a way of touching the demographic because that's one of the things that connects everyone in that younger demographic, right? Is not necessarily actual hip hop music, but a sensitivity to that culture.
Right.
Right. The way that people dress in the commercials, you see more mixed couples, you see more young people, you see a shit ton of dancing and all of these things, right? And all of that stuff is representative of hip hop culture. And hip hop culture started predominantly as a part of black culture, right? It was an offshoot of black culture, but it's been adopted like everything else in this world. It's been adopted by people from every walk of life. And we welcome that, right? We welcome that. We want everyone to be a part of hip hop culture. We want everyone to embrace it, to live it, to breathe it, but also to respect it. And so we don't want commercials being made that's almost like a mockery of the culture.
Right. Now I got to ask you a question. For you being from here from the beginning, we can say you're one of the forefathers of hip hop. I mean,
I'll take that.
You'll take that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you started in
Started in 88.
88, right?
Yeah.
In 92, I think you had a record,
Yeah, that
right?
was our first record.
So, I mean, think about it. I mean, 92, I mean, and were you doing gangster rap at that time? Or
Yeah, definitely making street-oriented music for sure.
So, I mean, that's where, it comes to the limelight, right? Gangster rap, right? And then hip-hop have evolved, I mean, since then.
There's always been other forms of
R&B.
of hip hop being done. There's even within hip hop, right? There's dance oriented hip hop. There's what we call conscious hip hop. You know what I'm saying? There's very loose like music that's just kind of like what they have today is called drill music, which is very violence oriented, right? So a lot of what they call gangster rap now was really a reflection of the environments the artists were coming from. And it was Time Magazine that actually came up with that term. We always called it street music, right? We never referred to what we did as gangster rap. Some of us called it street rap or reality rap because it was the reality of the circumstances. But no, I mean, because the fact that hip hop touches so many different people from so many different walks of life, you have music that reflects people's life experiences. That's what hip hop musically has always been, a reflection of the life experience of the individual. And so now that the culture goes to different people who don't necessarily come from projects or low income housing or a ghetto area, whatever you want to call it, they're just rapping about their life experiences. Now, when you come from something that's more River Oaks, but you present it as Third Ward, CUNY Homes or something like that, that becomes a misrepresentation and the mockery that I was talking about.
And so how do you feel seeing where it was at?
I love
where
it.
It's at now?
I love it because there was a time when what I was doing wasn't popular, right? And so we had to break through a couple of barriers to get accepted in the way that we're accepted now, right? The UGK is looked at as, very high level hip hop, especially in the South, one of the best groups to ever make rap music. But we were ostracized initially. People made fun of our voices. People made fun of the way we dress, all of that kind of stuff. But we were representing a part of the world that they just weren't familiar with. You fast forward now 28 years, everyone is familiar with Houston life, the candy cars, the rims, the pop trunk, the neon, all of that stuff, right? Like people understand who we are. So it's easier to present Houston lifestyle through music to people and be accepted. So now you have people like a Travis Scott or a Megan Thee Stallion or a Maxo Cream who all have the opportunity to be huge stars now because they don't have to explain where they're from.
Right.
They don't have to explain that they're from Houston and any of that. People know they're from Houston. Okay, well, you're from the land of this, this, and that, right? So talk to us about your experience within those parameters of that area.
Now, what do you hip hop is a culture.
Yes.
Clothing, cars, everything.
Absolutely.
Even though the cars have changed now, we're not doing, the candy red lowrider cars like back in the days.
Right, but still, what's the music playing? It doesn't matter what the car is, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're the kids with the souped up cars, the souped up Hondas or Subarus and stuff like that, still hip hop music.
Still hip hop music. So things have changed. Now, how do you see? Do you say hip hop and R&B can be intermingled as the same culture?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say the same culture. It's definitely the same music, and the people that practice the music will probably come from similar life experiences, but they don't have to talk about the same thing at all. Right now, you have some rappers who make more sensitive love type music, right? LL, I Need Love, people like that. And then you have R&B artists who make more edgy music, right? Like a Chris Brown, right? So there's merging of the cultures based on the shared life experiences that some people have. Their proximity to the elements which the music comes from is the same. So they just may choose a different outlet. Some dudes aren't good rappers, they're better singers, and vice versa. Some people, like a Drake or a Future, people like Young Thug, can actually do both. So they can do a record that has more R&B sensitivity, and they can do records that have more of a rap sensitivity, and they can do records that encompass both of them, where they're singing at the beginning and then rapping at the end.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, based on the shared life experiences some of these young black men, women, or people of color have, yeah, they can exist in both worlds if need be.
Now let me ask you a question. Music, of course, is your life. You want to come back, do this. Everybody knows you. Music is what brought you to the stage, to the main, to the red carpet, right? But I know you wanted, and there was a time in your life which you just said you did not want to make a lot of music, but so you went and taught stuff. You also had a food blog, which I wanted to ask you about in a second. Then I know you did endorsement for other. For companies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
And so let's talk about the food blog first.
Right.
What made you do a food blog?
So the food blog started over dinner with a good friend of mine, Premium Pete from New York. He's always been a foodie. he's a big one of the earliest guys doing podcasts in hip hop culture. So the show that he was a part of, the Combat Jack Show, was basically created the idea of a hip hop podcast. So a lot of people know him from that. He's also very well known in the sneaker community. He's one of the best known sneaker collectors in the country for sure, if not in the world. And so we kind of met through sneakers and music, but food, he's such a little guy, right? But he's always hungry and he's always eating, and I'm a big guy, so I'm up for it. So he's like, man, we're over on this side of town. We need to go over here, man. They make a great pizza, or we need to stop by this place. They make crazy sushi. It's only 3 blocks around the corner. So every time he and I would get together, it was always about food. And so we were eating at this place called Blue Ribbon Sushi in New York. And he was like, man, I bet you people would love, because they do a bone marrow fried rice.
Oh.
Right? And so he was like, man, I bet you people would love to try this, right? He's like, because it's not what they're necessarily known for. They're known for sushi and they're known for their chicken wings, but they're not really known for the fried rice, which was one of our favorite things to eat. And I was like, yeah, man, wouldn't it be cool if every time somebody went somewhere to get something cool to eat, like, because there was random pictures, like this was in the very early stages of Instagram, so there was always a lot of food pictures, whatever, but people didn't really know where to go and get that food. And so we came up with the idea of telling people, man, you got to eat this, right? So that's the name of the blog, is you got to eat this, because it's like, I saw this, I tried it, it's amazing, and you got to eat this, right? So if you're in Chicago and you're in this area and you want some pizza, this is the place to go. You got to eat this pizza. And so we, he travels, I travel, and so we would always, say, hey, man, I just left from Miami. I just had this Cuban sandwich from this little spot in Little Havana. It's amazing. We need to put this up. And so we would put that on the site. And then initially it became, we're putting up all of this food, but it's all different food. So now we got to start having categories, right? What's an appetizer? What's a meal? What's Italian? What's Latin American? Where do all these different foods come from? And then we came up with the idea of what did you eat today? Right? So we basically set up on the website a way that you can log in and show us what you ate and tell people where it is. And that way it became interactive with people. And then people would always post something on social media and then tag us and say, man, you got to eat this. Do you like this? Yeah. What do you think? And we would answer like with hashtag, you got to eat this approved, right? YGET approved. And so we just kind of stuck with it. And I mean, it's been fun. Like, we don't do it for money.
So is it still around?
Yes, absolutely. So it's on all the social media platforms, and there's a website as well.
You Gotta Eat This is on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep. You got it. GOTTA.
GOTTA. So you gotta eat this. So now let me ask you: Is that like also on TikTok?
I don't know if he's put it on TikTok yet. That's a great question, because most of what I see on TikTok is food. So I think naturally we're gonna have to make that move. Right. And it's a place to put up a lot of older content too. Yeah. Right. So we've already got a lot of the content to put on the TikTok page.
Just put it on. So let's talk about, since we got to TikTok, right? Let's talk about social media.
Right.
Okay. What has social media done to hip hop culture?
Well, it's helped to expand it. Right. It's helped to give people a platform to present themselves and their music directly to the consumer. So you don't have to go to New York or LA and sign a big record deal to become famous anymore. And this really starts with YouTube, MySpace, and Soulja Boy, right? Soulja Boy is one of those first artists that takes their music directly to YouTube, promotes that through their MySpace page, and becomes a star, right? And then other people start to follow that format and then basically take that concept and move it to these other social media platforms that pop up. So it moved to Facebook. People started promoting themselves through Facebook, then eventually Twitter, then Instagram, then every other media platform that's there, but then also the streaming platforms come into play, right? So this is another way to give your music directly to the people. So people were using SoundCloud primarily to put up new music and to showcase it to people, get comments about it, get a reaction from people in real time, right? Do you like this music? I like this. The drums are okay. The second verse was cool. So now you can make adjustments and then represent yourself consistently over and over again to these people through this platform. So it gave people who normally didn't have an outlet or a connection in these major cities, like a kid in Jackson, Mississippi, or Cleveland, Ohio, right, who can't get to New York, who can't get to LA, who can't get to Miami or Atlanta, right, to be in front of tastemakers and influencers and stuff like that. Now they can give the music directly to the people, and the people can have a say so in whether or not they think you're worthy, right?
Yeah, someone who just couldn't get that mixtape out to somebody who would listen to it.
And it could be, these people had real talent, and the person they presented it to didn't understand it, right? I dealt with that a lot coming from Texas, talking about different things. We tried to tell our record company for years that there's a lot of things happening in the Houston lifestyle that we think people would be into if you would let us make the kind of album we wanted to make, right? With no hindrances, don't get in the way, don't stop the process, just give us full creative control. And the minute they finally decided to do that, it took 3 albums, it became a classic album. It was it's still to date our most successful album, our most critically acclaimed album. It's the album that I'm known for, But yeah, no, so yeah, the people know what they want to listen to. For many years, radio tried to tell you what to listen to. Record companies tried to tell you these were the hot artists. But there's always room, right? There's always room. And, if you're from one of these small towns and you get to New York and you present this, if they don't know where you're from, what you're about, and how that city moves, they're not going to relate to it. Now, if they're in New York, someone from Brooklyn, they can understand that. They might be from Brooklyn or they've been to Brooklyn, but they understand Brooklyn or Queens, but they don't understand Port Arthur, Texas. They don't understand Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So you have to find alternate ways of presenting yourself to the people. Then the people decide you're viable. Then all of a sudden the record companies come back around. But this time they got to pay big.
Yeah, and social media has done that.
Absolutely.
Now, what has social media done for you?
It's kept me relevant for sure, right? It allows me an opportunity to connect directly with my fans, but then also to make a deeper connection than just music, right? So for many years, people didn't really know a lot about me personally. Social media allows people to see me from a personal aspect. They get to see me as a friend, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, as an activist, as an educator, all of these other different things that my life encompasses that you normally wouldn't be able to know about from just the music.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way to personalize yourself and humanize yourself to people. But you got to want to be humanized, right? Some people exist in a space that allows them to be seen as this super famous celebrity or whatever. I feel better being more personable to people. That's just my nature. Everybody doesn't have that nature. Everybody doesn't want to be personable to people. They want to come outside and be seen as a celebrity and be lifted up all the time. I find that a very heavy thing to carry with you all the time. People know you're a rapper. People know you're famous. They know that. People see me. They know I'm Bun B. I don't have to go out of my way. I don't have to wear a bunch of jewelry, right, and jump out of a certain kind of car for people to know I'm Bun B. They can see it as soon as they see me walking in the grocery store. They know that's fucking Bun B right there, right? It's not hard to tell. I'm a very unique looking person. I've only met like 2 people that kind of look like me, but for the most part, I'm sticking out like a sore thumb no matter what I got on or where I'm at.
I remember this is 7-8 years ago, and I'm with my kids. I have twins, Adam and Adalia, and that day I think it was me, Adam, Adalia, or me, Adam, Ursula, and Adalia. Yes, so the twins, my other daughter, and me, right? And we are passing by the Lexus Lounge in there.
Oh, at the game.
At the game, right? And Adam would say, Dad, that's Bun B. I said, I know that's Bun B. I got to take a picture of Bun B. And I stopped you, and your wife was right there behind me and behind you. And so I think she heard my son. And then she's like, yeah, take a picture. And took a picture. So, and it was very nice of you. I mean, it made his day. Matter of fact, today, he's right here. He's like, don't let him go until I see Bun B. I said, no problem. But, for him, it meant a lot. And I mean, there's some artists that don't like to do that.
I see it all the time. Because they get in it for different things.
Breaks my heart,
they get in it for different things. And their experiences tend to be very quick in, but then also very quick out. Yeah. I've seen several artists who were literally with me walking through Sharpstown Mall back in the day and kids chasing us all around the mall, and all they wanted was a picture. And this person just did not want to take pictures with people. And now they're struggling, trying to still have some semblance of a career left. And people remember that kind of stuff. Like for you, it might be one in a dozen times, right? I leave here. If I stop and get some gas, somebody's gonna say, "Hey, Bun B, what's up?" If I go in the mall, say, "Hey, Bun B, what's up?" Wherever you go, whatever. Some people ask, some people don't. But I pretty much take every picture anybody asks, because for them, I mean, me, I get it all day, every day. It's no big deal. But for them, that may be that once in a lifetime moment. They have no idea if they're ever going to see Bun B at Chevron again, or catch me at Kroger's or something like that. And I understand that, right? Because there are people far more famous than me that I've been in certain places, and oh man, that's really Denzel, right there.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of contain myself in that space. So I get it from people, but it feels amazing when you meet someone that you look up to and they're exactly what you want them to be. I've been in places where I've met people that I looked up to and the experience was not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'll tell you one about me. I mean, shit, if I see Denzel Washington, I might lose a little cool little bit.
Right. It's hard to keep it together.
But
it's a big deal.
So I like this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, Gary V.
Good friend of mine.
I love him, right? And I saw him in Vegas earlier this year, right? But I was thinking about him. It was just like something I was thinking about. I was like, this mofo says this, but he doesn't do it. If I see him ever, I'm going to tell him, okay? I'm going to confront him about this thing.
Right.
And so I'm thinking this on the way to Vegas. 4 hours later, I'm playing blackjack.
There he is.
And I see Bun B. I mean, I see Gary V. I leave my chips right there on the table, and I said, I'll be right back. I go around and I see him. I said, and he was talking to somebody. I waited till he get done, and as soon as he got done, I said, hey Gary, I just got to ask you a question, man. You say that you answer every DM messages. I've DM'd you 55 times, bro. How come you don't answer? And he looks at me and he's like, bro, I get 100,000 of them. He said, I'm sorry. And I said, oh, okay. All of a sudden, I don't know what the hell to say. And I'm like, man, I appreciate it. He's like, well, tell me your story. So I tell him my story. He sat and talked to me for 3 minutes. And I promise you, I'm 43 years old. And at that time, I'm 42.
You felt like a kid.
And I felt like I felt like a little kid. And he's like, man, let's take a little video. And he made a little video with me. Meant the world to me. Okay?
It's so easy to do that for somebody. That's why I don't understand it when people don't do it. It's so easy to make someone's day.
Yeah.
It's so easy to put a smile on somebody's face. And so for the life of me, I can't understand what part of you tells you not to do that. Right? When you see people that obviously have a certain level of admiration for you, as a recording artist, they've probably spent money before. So I don't see what's wrong with reciprocating
exactly
goodwill.
I'll tell you, I don't like to call out people, but and I'm not gonna say no names, but I went to go see Jay-Z concert one day. I don't know how the heck did it happen, but I'm sitting in front row, right? Sitting in front row, me, my boy Greg, and what's the guy's name? The football player that came from A&M, played for the Browns.
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. Johnny Manziel sitting right next to us. Another one of his friends. Another very famous, probably one of the biggest stars that ever played for Houston football, sitting right there next to him. So he, a break happens. Jay-Z goes to the back. He got to use the restroom, so he goes out. There's a girl behind us, okay? This black chick right behind us, she gets very excited. She sees him.
When she sees the football player.
Yeah. Well, she has been seeing him
the whole night.
Right. She's the row behind us. She's in the second row. We in the first row.
So she's just waiting for that opportunity.
So she's just waiting for the opportunity. She goes, runs, and she's like, hi. And I'm not going to say the name. Can you take a picture with me? And he said no. And honestly, that pisses me off, right? So I'm like, man, take a picture. It's going to take you 1 second.
Because you're there and you see the anticipatory reaction of her thinking it's going to happen, and then you see the rejectionary reaction.
And he said no.
And you just see her heart drop. It's so easy to make someone's night in the moment. And like me, I have a lot of women that see me and they want pictures, and I tell them, yes, but I'm married, so we have to take respectable.
Yeah.
Because women will like literally put their ass up against me. I've been in places where women like run and jump and hug me. So you have to set boundaries for people.
Right.
Right. So like, yes, I can take your picture, but you have to take it the way I want to take it.
Exactly.
Right? So it can't be physical.
But just take a picture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so we were like, take a picture. And you know what? Manziel got up, took a picture with the lady, you know, and she was happy for that.
Right.
She left. I mean, he comes back from the restroom. Another girl stops him, who's physically more appealing, and he stops and takes a picture.
Yeah.
And that was just like, you know, I lost the respect for him throughout. But I mean, you know, and I'm not gonna say the name, but it's just so easy, you know, for if you're an artist, if you're a football player, if you're a celebrity in any way, right? Making somebody's day, man.
So
and
easy.
I just hate it that happened. So I appreciate, you know, we got to this long story, but that day made my kid's story, and he still loves it 6-7 years later. I mean, he's at maybe 8 years. I think he was like 11 or 12. So I think maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and he just loved it.
Because that will turn you off from everybody, right? Yeah. That'll, you know, having a bad experience with an entertainer or an athlete or somebody with a level of influence or notoriety, will make you hesitant to approach anybody, and you'll draw assumptions of people based on how your reaction with one person from that world was. But no, man, I tell people all the time, and people will tell me, you know, I met you before, but you look like really mean and whatever, and I didn't want to bother you. I was like, look, that's my resting face. Like, my resting face is don't fuck with me. That's just it. That's nothing personal. But I try to let it be known. If people see me out in public, man, I'm very approachable, very personable. As long as I'm not eating, right? Like sitting at a table eating food with my family, and I have no problem stopping what I'm doing and taking pictures with you. But if I'm eating, I don't want to have to stop eating, take a picture, and then like gotta clean my hands because I don't know where. Well, obviously now, right? But even before that, I'd be like, look, if I shake your hand and you know all of that stuff,
I gotta wash my
hands again, and it takes a lot from the process. Now, if you're going to be in the restaurant for a while, when I'm leaving, I'll come by your table and I'll give you that picture.
Exactly.
You know,
long time ago, and I mean, you know, I was at in Vegas at Bellagio, and I see Iron Man. I see Chuck Liddell, Iceman Chuck Liddell, sitting right there across the table, right? I mean, I'm one of those guys. I don't want to bother somebody at their meal, at least. So I go to the restroom. I go to the sink. He's right there. He's washing his hands. I'm washing my hands, right? And so I say, I come out and he's in front of me. We looked at each other. Mm-hmm. He's in front of me, and I said, Iceman Chuck Liddell. He turns around, looks at me. He's like, "You're sitting right in front of me, right?" I say, "Yeah." He said, "You want to take a picture?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." He's like, "Why you didn't ask?" I said, "I'm scared of you, man."
Well, I mean, with Chuck, there's a different level of intimidation, right? It's not just the celebrity, it's the physicality, right? But I get it. And again, you know, you don't want to be that person that kind of messes up somebody's dinner or interrupts somebody doing really something important. Yeah. I've had to tell people every now and then, like, bro, like, this is not the time. You see, I'm dealing with something right now. If you give me a couple of minutes and hang back, once I finish with this, I'll take care of you. Yeah. But I'm not finna, I'm trying to get my wife checked in the hotel. I'm not finna stop this process right now.
Exactly.
If you can give me 2 minutes, knock this out, get this situated, I can get you your picture. I've had people that don't want to wait 2 minutes. People will be like, "Oh man, you're an asshole to your fans or whatever." I'm like, look, I can't be everything to everybody, and I got to make peace with that. You know, I can't give everybody everything they want from me, right? I can only give to people what's available. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, we can respect that. Tell me something, one thing that kind of recently I've seen you, I don't know if you're still doing endorsing with Monster or you're working with Monster. Yeah. But that looked like
it's amazing.
Good shit.
Yeah. I'm on my 3rd year now of being sponsored by Monster Energy, man. It's such an amazing company, man. And they encompass so much, right? So everybody knows Monster from music. I mean, from the energy drink, right? But they sponsor a multitude of action sports. They also have their Monster Music division. That's kind of where I come in. Mm-hmm. So myself, a good friend of mine, Static Selecta, is a part of that. A couple of different DJs I know. But even like local B-boys from Houston are sponsored by Monster. My guys over at Sneaker Summit Storefront, they do a sneaker convention twice a year. They're sponsored by Monster. And they're so good at, you know, helping getting eyes on people, right? No matter what it is you do, trying to help put you in position for things, but then they also underwrite stuff too. So every year we would do Bun B Day. We have Bun B Day in Houston from the mayor's office. And so we would do different events for Bun B Day. So Monster Energy, every year, we couldn't do it this year because of COVID, but every year they would underwrite the concerts and everything that we want to do for that day, because we wouldn't want to charge people a lot for something like that, right? Just come celebrate with me. So they underwrite a lot of that stuff. They sponsor so many events around the world. So like my grandson is into monster trucks, right? So they sponsor like 2 big monster truck rallies in Houston a year. We always get tickets. My son gets to take him to that. He loves it. There's one where you get to go like early and see the trucks up front and get down in the dirt and everything like that. So the kids love that. They also are one of the underwriters for this huge concert series called Rolling Loud. So Rolling Loud is where all of the young up and coming hip hop artists and R&B singers perform at. Their demographic is literally like 15 to 30. Like they're in that key core demographic of young people. Monster Energy is their main, one of their main sponsors. So I didn't realize that. I've been seeing the concert all the time. I was like, man, I want to go to this one day, man. This looks really crazy. And then I look at the poster one time and I'm like, oh shit, Monster sponsors this. So I call my Monster rep. I'm like, hey, can I get access to this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, man. How many tickets you need? Since I don't have tissue, I'll use hand sanitizer. Yeah. Travis Scott, baby. No, this works. This definitely works. It wasn't wet. It wasn't wet. And so, yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, which one can I go to? Because they do it in New York, they do Miami, they do LA, but then they also do like Brazil and places like that. He's like, man, we're sponsors for the whole thing. So if you want to go locally, you can go. If you want to go internationally. So my plan was to go to the one overseas this year and check it out. And then, of course, COVID kind of put a hold to everything.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on personal, right?
Sure.
You've mentioned now your grandkid a couple of times.
Yeah, 6.
6 grandkids.
6 grandkids.
Is it different being a grandkid than a dad?
Absolutely. Man, huge difference.
So, I just had my first grandkid. I started everything early. So the baby, I just love him. Man, I feel like I look at him, it's a totally different love.
It is. It's very different because you're more prepared for that child coming into the world than you were for your own children.
Yeah.
Right? Usually when you have your children, you're younger, still trying to figure things out, right? You're still working on your career, being a provider, all of that kind of stuff. And you're trying to manage responsibilities. And then this child comes in and it kind of throws a curve for everything, right? So you want to still do everything else that you're doing, but you know that none of that comes before the child, right? Well, when you have the grandchild, the difference is that, for one, this isn't your day-to-day, 24-hour-a-day responsibility, right? Your only job is to love this kid, right? Because if you did everything right with your children are going to be in a position to handle everything that they need to for the child, right? And the other thing is that you can be with this child whenever you want, and then as soon as you don't want anymore, hey, come get him. Come get him. It's too much.
Had him over.
Yeah, we had him for 2 days. He started to grab stuff, and it's too much. I didn't know he was about to start walking. He's doing too much. So we'll take him now, but bring him back when he's 3.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it is. The love is absolutely different, because what you do when you see the grandchild, right? The best part about being a grandparent is seeing things the grandchild does to your child that your child used to do to you, right? The way they answer them, the way they fight different stuff. Like, oh, no, he's not going to want to wear that suit. You didn't want to wear suits at all. So I already get it. And then it's funny to watch them you see yourself in your child, and then you see your child in your grandchild, and the way the whole dynamic shifts.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man.
And,
it's really amazing.
So my grandchild, he's just turned 10 months. Man, I just love him. I mean, like, the best part is, my daughter must have really hated me. He looks just like me. He looks like me, acts like me. I mean, everything. Even
but you see it, and when you were young, you used to hear older people talking about, oh no, he has his eyes, he has his smile, he has his hair, all of that stuff. You don't really understand that when you're a child.
Yeah.
Right. But when when you get your children, your mom will tell you, oh no, he has your uncle so and so's eyes and all of that. But when the grandchild comes, then you can see
Yeah.
exactly what. Oh no, he looks just like your grandpa.
Yeah.
He looks just like my dad, right? Like she looks just like your grandmother. You know, oh man, that's the face you used to make. You used to hate spinach. You see all of these little notes, man. It's amazing, man. And but the love that a grandparent has for a grandchild, I don't know if it's matched.
Oh man, I don't think there's
anything.
And the way they look at you and smile, it's over.
Oh, I can do no wrong. Like the biggest thing I have to, every now and then I have to tell my granddaughter of like, look, I'm not rich. Yes, you are. I'm not rich. I'm not a rich man. I have a good job. I make good money. I'm not a rich man. Papa, you know Beyonce and Jay-Z, you have to be rich. Only rich people know them. And there's certain things you have to like, okay, there's truth to that, right? But and I'm like, whatever. But I mean, there's nothing you won't give them. There's nothing you won't do for them.
But I mean, I got to ask you this, right? Since you just said you know Beyonce and Jay-Z. Man, you met a lot of people. You just told me you're friends with Gary Vee. You're friends with Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Yes.
Okay. You met Bernie Sanders. You met Hillary Clinton. Have you met Barack Obama?
Yes.
You met Barack Obama.
He's my screensaver in my phone.
Oh, really? So, I mean, shoot, you met Michelle Obama. I mean, what is something that you want to do, moving forward?
I'm pretty comfortable in my state. I have notifications on.
Wow.
It's like me, my wife, and
Barack
here, and he met him here in Houston actually at Rice.
There's what's the guy's name? Terrence, the guy who was the host on BET. Terrence, what's his last name? Young guy, used to be a host on BET. Did a lot of awards and a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't remember his last name, but yeah, huh? Terrence J, right?
Yeah.
Terrence J said, he was on an interview and the guy asked him who's the most intelligent or most interesting person he has ever met in his life. And of course he has met Barack Obama, and I mean he's met a lot of people, famous people. And I was running when I was listening to this, and the guy said, was it Barack Obama? And he said, no, it's not Barack Obama. It was Michelle Obama. I knew he was going to say it was Michelle Obama. And then he started saying what was Michelle Obama, what she does and the qualities and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I mean, man, that got to be like a crazy combo. I mean, him being so intricate and, and then her just on top of the game. It's crazy. And you have met both of them.
I haven't met her.
Oh, you haven't met her?
She wasn't with him.
So you met Barack, you met a couple of whole bunch of people. What's next for you? What is that's something that you want to do that you have not done?
That's a really, really good question. I've been lucky enough to kind of do almost everything I've ever wanted to do. I'd be lying if there isn't an interest in public service, but it's just right now the climate is just so bad to be running for a political office because there's just so much division in this country. And the minute you label yourself as a member of a certain party running for a position, the other side immediately hates you. They call you the enemy, right? There's one thing to be opposition and to be running for the same position, and that's fine, right? And whatever needs to be said or done in order for you to get that in politics is really, it's whatever. Everything's, except for kids, pretty much everything's on the table. But once they decide who the winner is, then everybody kind of comes together and makes it work. This is literally the first time, like, our outgoing president is going to spend the next 4 years of our incoming president's administration term opposing it, right? Trying to tear it down like the entire time. And it's sad because there's always going to be a winner and a loser, but you don't have to be a sore loser about things, right? Life goes on, but you just fight. You fight against the reality of the world, and it doesn't help anybody's situation because the reality is what it is. And so right now, right, the climate for running for public office is a little sketchy for me, I have liberal fans. I have conservative fans. I have people who identify as Republican and people who identify as Democrats, independents, libertarians, you know what I'm saying? All of these different people support me as an artist. And that's a good place to be because I provide a service that no matter who you are, it can benefit you, right? I make good music. So it doesn't matter what your views are about life. If you like good music, my music should be able to appeal to you. But politics is a lot different. You know, it's. I've talked to Sylvester about, you know, being the mayor, and it's a big management job, right? He's got to manage all these different departments, all of these different districts, all of these different constituents, you know, and it's a lot. And I've given public office and public service a high level of consideration, but this year, like I couldn't see it after this year. Now, maybe in 2-3 years, things start to turn around, right? People find a better way to agree to disagree about things to still coexist. So if I see that shift happening again, I'll be more open to it. But I mean, I get calls every day about whether or not Bun B, are you going to run for mayor next year when it comes up? And because if I don't run, it's either going to be it'll probably be Tony Busby that ends up becoming the next mayor of Houston, which I can't even consider him, you know, just sitting back aimlessly knowing this guy is going to be the next mayor. But I'm still waiting to see who Sylvester decides he wants to endorse. Like, I think somebody internally that's on city council right now will probably try to run. But I mean, I have to consider it.
If you're a betting man, who do you think will run at the city council?
Well, I would have said Dwight.
I was going to say Dwight.
I would say Dwight, but Dwight tried already, and he just didn't get the momentum behind him.
But it was because it was Sylvester, and you know, Busby was putting a lot of money.
Right, and so I would say Dwight might make another run for it, and then the other guy, Bill. I
don't know.
I can't think of.
Oh, you're talking about the one who ran last time too.
Yeah.
Bill King.
Yeah, I think Bill's going to give it a run again.
One more time.
Yeah, I think so, because Bill had a lot of momentum. He had a lot of momentum, and he's got, you know, but it's just Tony already has just a bunch of money, right?
Yeah.
And so you can personally donate as much of your personal income as you want to your campaign. You can't donate as much as you want to anyone else, but you can donate as much as you want to your own personal campaign. So that's always going to be a problem with anybody that chooses to run against a candidate that doesn't have to raise
a lot of
funds.
Money.
He doesn't have to raise campaign funds.
Yeah, I got you. And because that's money he's saving.
Yeah, he's got it. It's not a problem. It's a calculated risk for him.
It's a calculated risk. You like to travel.
Yes.
You told me next week you're traveling. Have you traveled everywhere? Is there somewhere that say, man, I want to travel here. This is where I want to go.
Maybe, was it Bora Bora?
Bora Bora?
Bora Bora, probably the place. My wife won't go because these flights are so long to get to some of these places. When we came back from Japan, that was it for her. Like, that was like the longest flight.
She went to Japan with you?
Yeah.
Was that where y'all drove for like?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that one.
Okay, so I do this thing every year. It's called the Gumball 3000.
Uh-huh.
It's a rally. It's not necessarily a race, but we drive 3,000 miles in 6 days.
Okay.
Around the world. It starts in different places, ends in different places every year. The last time I did it, because we were supposed to do it this year, and it canceled because of COVID. But the last time we did it, we started in London. We went to Chantilly, France. Then we went to Milan, Italy. Then we went to Bologna. We flew from Bologna to Kazakhstan. We stopped in Kazakhstan to refuel the plane. We never got off the plane. We just refueled. And then Kazakhstan to Osaka. We drove from Osaka to Kyoto to the small little fishing village called Nanao, to Mount Fuji, and then we ended in Tokyo.
So I mean, are you driving the same car or are you driving different cars?
No, you're driving your car.
Your car.
Well, for us, we did two different cars. So I had one car for Europe and one car for Japan.
Okay, and so tell me a little bit. Because I always wonder about it. I've heard about the Gumball 3000. Yeah. I saw it on your social media. I saw it on somewhere else also. So do you buy a car over there?
No, I mean, you can if you're rich enough. You can. I've seen people go to a country.
Or you take your car with you.
Yeah. So when you enter this, so for one, it costs anywhere between, depending on where you're going and what you're doing, somewhere between $50,000 to $75,000. Okay. Right. So Tokyo was 65. Doing that one was 65 grand. And so you have to get it starts in London. So you have to get your car to London, but that's your expense. And then when it's over, you have to ship your car back home from Japan. That's also your expense. But any travel during the rally is covered by your entry fee.
Gotcha.
So you pay the entry fee. It's you plus one other person. You guys share a double room for basically 8 days, 9 days, whatever. You're spending pretty much every waking moment with that person. But I mean, you get to see the world in a way that most people don't get to see it. We're usually in about 125 cars. All of them are high performance cars. They're, either supercars or hypercars. Every now and then somebody will bring something for an aesthetic choice. Like we had somebody do Herbie's Love Bug one year. I've had every Batmobile. I've seen every Batmobile. From the Adam West Batmobile to the Christian Bale Batmobile.
Really?
Yeah. So.
And how many times you've done this?
I've done it 8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
You say probably that's been one of the top 10 experiences?
Oh, easily. Because I travel for work, right? So I've been to Paris. I've been to London and Berlin and all these different places. But I didn't drive into the city and I didn't drive out. So like driving through the French Alps, right? Driving through Italy's wine country.
It just gives it a totally different
the French
meaning.
countryside, I had my first espresso in Italy, right? I know guys that had their first, like going to a bathhouse in Russia or getting a shave in Italy and stuff like that. All these different experiences that you can only have in these places. Like we stopped in Belgium and got waffles, like we stopped in France and ate bread and drank wine. All this kind of stuff, which we would never have done on tour. When you're on tour, you go from the airport to the hotel, to the venue, to the hotel, to the venue, maybe get something to eat, and then back to the hotel. You don't really get to see these cities or the surrounding areas at all. Driving through Japan was amazing because half of Japan is extremely technologically advanced, and then the other half of Japan is very rural and just old school. Right? So you have the best of both worlds while you're driving through this country. It was really, really amazing to see. Russia probably was one of the illest places I've been, like driving through Russia. Like I saw like child labor, like construction on the freeway. And it was like, you could see there were young, like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids working on the freeway. Like their I-10 was one lane each way with potholes.
Now,
like getting into Russia from, I think we drove in from Finland into Russia.
A lot of people
St.
don't know about
Petersburg?
Russia. I've heard Russia is not, it's nothing like, just gloomy, not that technologically advanced.
It's I think Russia is different for Russians, right? But when you go there from outside, like there were like the partying aspect of Russia was A1. Like they don't have a problem with that at all. Like the nightlife and all of that, but just economically, like there's pockets of Russia that is very progressive. Obviously, St. Petersburg, Moscow, some of these cities are there's a high level of prosperity in the city, but everywhere in between is rough.
The economic development is very, very back.
It's few and
Finland.
far in between.
What'd you think about Finland?
Finland was nice. Finland's a very...
So we're Helsinki?
Yes. Yeah, Finland is nice. Very prosperous country. Very friendly people. Right? Not all of them necessarily speak English, more so than like a France or something. Personally, I think the French speak English, they just don't like to. They just don't like to, right?
They just don't like to, especially in Paris. They're rude. I had a hard time in Paris when I went over there.
If you're not French, France isn't the best place.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? And that's kind of how I felt in a lot of places, but not Finland. Finland couldn't have been like Finland, Sweden. These people couldn't have been nicer.
So if there's one thing you say, maybe in public service, that's one thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Anything
and then
else?
Cooking shows.
What do you mean? Talk about that. I want to.
Well, my wife and I have a YouTube thing that we do. It's called Trill Meals. And so we do like quick cut cooking demos, but we're looking now to potentially stretch them out a little bit. Because it kind of started like making fun of Vine videos, so being very quick cut, being very short and concise videos. I would always throw like a smoke break of me like smoking a blunt in the middle of it, just very random. I would do very random cuts in the middle of the videos, things that had nothing to do with food. And people enjoyed it, but it's very hard to expand it. Like I can't really shop it to people because there's cursing, right? That's a big appeal. And then the weed smoking is a big appeal, right? So there's not many places I can take a cooking show that's good. Like the Food Network is not going to let me smoke a blunt. Right? But if Snoop can exist in that space, then so can I, right? And Snoop isn't really even necessarily cooking that much. Now, he does cook somewhat, but that's not necessarily what it is. It's about the dynamic between him and Martha Stewart that kind of makes the show work. And so we have a dynamic that makes it work. And so right now it can really only exist in certain places. But we start looking at the idea that if we expand it on YouTube, and that's the other thing. The other problem with YouTube is that we can't monetize the page talk with weed on it, right? Because most advertisers do not put their ads on rap videos that depict violence or have a high level of profanity. They won't advertise that. They don't want their product connected with certain things. And so that's been a problem for us trying to monetize the YouTube page. But I think there might be a place for us on TikTok.
Okay. But right? let me ask you a question.
Because you can monetize TikTok a lot easier.
But it's only 1 minute video.
Yeah, and I can still do the shortcut.
Okay.
Right. As long as I can monetize it, I don't care how long. If you want 30 minutes, I'll give you 30 minutes. If I only get 2, 3, I think she said it's open up to 2 or 3 minutes now.
No, TikTok. It's 1 minute. Still, I think they're thinking about going to 2 or 3 minutes. Now let me ask you.
My wife does TikTok. I don't really.
Yeah.
Do it like
so now let me ask you a question. And you want to do the cooking show.
Yeah.
You can do it longer. Would you be opposed to taking the weed out of there?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay.
Right. Because I can always hint to it during commercial breaks, right?
That's it. You can hint to it.
Yeah, I'd be like, so we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You know what kind of break I'm talking about, and we'll be right back. So I could always, there's ways around it. So if there's an opportunity, right, because we've had people want to shop it before. So if there's an opportunity.
I honestly think that's a great idea. That can be, you can start being Chef Bun B.
Yeah, man, I'm up for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the time. I can make the time for it.
I think that's a great idea because that's honestly I was thinking while we were talking right now because, my mind I just went to Tulum the other day. And a couple of months ago.
So what did you think? Because we're going to Cancun Sunday, and the plan is to stay in Cancun for a couple of days, and then drive to Tulum.
I'll give you all deep down things. I have a guy who can take you wherever you want to go in Tulum, and so I was in Tulum, and then I'm riding in this taxi with this guy for the last 2-3 days. He drove me around everywhere. Right, I call him, he'll come pick me up. That was very simple.
Wow.
And So I was right there, and all I'm thinking is like, man, I should come by 7 or 8 taxis, get these guys to work. It's just the entrepreneur in me,
Right.
And so while you're talking, I'm like, man, Bun gotta have a show. He gotta have a show. And then you just said cooking show. You can do a show on YouTube, and
Yeah, we're just trying to. What happened was in the middle of doing the cooking demos, we had the incident with the guy at our house, and so we ended up having to move houses and. It took a while for my wife to kind of get back to where she was.
Because you have the platform. Why not utilize it?
And so now we're getting back into it. And plus, I just got a friend of mine works with marketing and promotion for Traeger grills. So they just gave me this new Traeger grill, and I love it. I've been doing all kinds of stuff.
Traeger is the truth, huh?
Yeah.
So
man.
now before I say you should do the show. What kind of cook are you, man?
We do it all. My wife, between me and my wife, we cook it all.
You or your wife?
Both of us. We're a team.
Okay. If Miss Queenie's gonna be like, Sam, don't believe. So what is your specialty?
I'm working to perfect lasagna.
Lasagna.
That's what I want to be my key dish, and so now I'm using the grill to cook the lasagna.
Really?
Yeah, because the grill is basically an oven on wheels. So it's not like a barbecue pit.
Right.
Where I have to put charcoal or logs of wood in there and lighter fluid and all of that. It's a wood pellet grill. Mm-hmm. So the pellets feed into the auger. The auger lights everything up. It keeps the flame going. And the way the smoke releases in the grill based on the fan, it comes in a figure 8. So it cooks everything evenly. So I don't necessarily have to flip meat over or anything unless I want char grill marks, right, on the food. But basically anything I cook, the way it was presented to me, anything I cook in the oven, I can cook on this grill.
Okay.
So that's my thing. So I don't throw ribs, steak, or anything. That's not what I want to cook on the grill. I want to cook, like for Thanksgiving, we threw a turkey on the grill, but then we also threw the dressing, the cornbread dressing on the grill, and her cream corn casserole on the grill. So we're cooking.
Came out good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're cooking the entree and the sides all on the grill. So I kind of want to perfect that kind of a thing.
So that's what you're doing.
But lasagna is the thing that I want to be known for in the family.
So now tell me, your lasagna, and I mean, I don't want to go in detail. What do you make it with? What is it that you're using?
So right now I'm using ground chuck,
okay.
Right? Some people, whenever they cook meat dishes, they like to do like some meat and some beef and some pork. Mine is just straight pork.
Okay.
Yeah, but I want to do lamb.
Okay.
That's what I want to be to perfect, like a lamb a ground lamb, because to me, ground lamb meat holds seasoning better than any meat I've been working with. It connects with the seasoning on a totally different level. It's a very lean meat. I really like the taste of it. My wife is not so crazy about lamb. So once I get the perfect lasagna down packed, then I'm going to switch it out.
Okay.
So I'm still trying to figure out how many layers do I want, all the different cheeses. I wasn't using like the olive oil and the egg, right? For the, is it ricotta? I think for the ricotta. So I've got to incorporate that now, which should kick things up because that's usually the hardest part for me is trying to make the ricotta spread because it's usually very hard and very clumpy. So you add the egg and you add the olive oil, and that makes it easier to apply the ricotta cheese. But that's my thing. Whenever there's a family get together, I want them to be like, hey, tell Bun to bring his lasagna.
Well, Chef Bun, I got to try that lamb lasagna when you perfect it.
When I make that, I'm going to give you a call, Sam.
All right, done deal. So, I can sit over here and talk to you for hours. I mean, I'm known for talking, right? So I can eat anybody's ear up. But I want to see if maybe in the future we can get you back over here, see what you've done. But I want to ask you 2-3 questions to end this interview on a tasteful note. Have you said when you went to Rice University, you saw some books that you read that the professor had over there. Are you a book reader?
I am actually.
I know you did a coloring book in 2013.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I did. And that's when initially that was the plan. So the guy that I partnered with on the book, Shea Serrano, he's a local middle school teacher, but one of the best writers in the country. He writes for the Village Voice. He writes for the LA Times. He writes for all of these different publications all around the country. And he'd interviewed me a couple of times. And he has an amazing sense of humor. He's probably the funniest guy ever on Twitter. And so we both have very similar senses of humor. And so my thing was I wanted to do a book based around hip hop, but from a funny aspect, because hip hop can be very stoic, very like, this what's up, but everybody I know that's a rapper is funny. Like that's what we do. We get together and we crack jokes and have fun with each other. So I wanted to approach something from a fun aspect, and novelization seemed like something very. It was like, okay, this might not be the best approach, because a lot of the stuff that's funny with rap is not known to the people, so you'd have a hard time trying to impose that train of thought on people. He came up with the idea of a coloring book. Mm-hmm. And so we did a basic model of it, and we pitched it to several publishing companies, and nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to do anything with it. And so he was like, let's do a Tumblr page. This is in the very early days of Tumblr. So he's like, let's do a Tumblr page, and we'll start putting different people to color on the Tumblr page. And then he came up with the idea, which is really the game changer. He was like, you know what? We should do activities too. So he came up with the idea of Woodoku, which is Sudoku, but with the 9 members of the Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah. And which was a genius concept. And it kind of really just all started to really taking off. And then we looked up and we had 50,000 followers on Tumblr. Wow. So we repitched it again as a coloring and activity book with the interaction that we'd had with different people on Tumblr. And we finally found a publisher that was like, I love it, let's do it. And we were probably only about a couple of 100 copies away from being the first coloring book to ever make the New York Times bestseller list. Wow. Like they called us and told us, look, you guys are right there. And they wanted to see it because they never had a coloring book even get close. And they're like, look, if you guys can get X amount of these things sold by the end of this week, you guys would make the list, And we did a push. We did everything we could. I took it to Wendy Williams, but we came up short. But it still became, and we dropped it in proximity to the holidays. So then it made everybody's Christmas list. Nordstrom's had a special section in the store for Christmas gifts. In every store in the country, our coloring book was there. We were Rolling Stone, Pitchfork, Billboard, all these different publications was like, this is a good gift to give people if you have someone that's a hip hop fan or a coloring fan. And we made it to where it was designed as a shareable experience, right? So it's designed for older people to turn younger people on to certain artists, for younger people to turn older people on to certain artists. There's men in there, there's women, there's groups. Everything you could think of that encompasses hip hop culture was a part of the book. So it became an entry point for anyone. If you're a kid that wanted to introduce your parents to hip hop, this was the way. If you were a parent that wanted to introduce your kids to hip hop, this was the way. And so it just made it a very accessible item for people to approach.
You never thought about,
Well, he's taken off, right?
two?
So once he's done that, he's done like several other books. But yeah, I do want to revisit that idea. But other people have tried to do it.
I mean, you
have
are
tried to do
you
coloring
are the
books.
king of king of the trill, man. You had part 2, part 3, part 4.
Yeah, I just
have
need
a
him
coloring
to-
book part 2.
Well, the problem is that he did all the illustrations himself.
Yeah.
And he came up with most of the ideas.
And what's
if
his
not
name?
all of them. Shea Serrano.
Shea Serrano.
S-H-E-A Serrano.
And so he has taken off.
Yeah, he's taken off. He's got a lot. Now, he drops probably 1 or 2 different books a year. One will be physical. He'll do some stuff as like a PDF book for people to access in their Amazon readers or Nooks or whatever it is that people read books on.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. All right, so reaching the end of the show, and I always do this all the time, right?
No problem.
Today is the last day on Earth, okay? And you live 100 years, 100 years later. Last day on Earth, everything got destroyed. The podcast is gone. The books are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Your music is gone. Everything just and you know what? It's time for you to go, to the next world. Meet your creator, right? And someone says, "Hey, here you go, Bun B. There's a pen and a paper. Write 3 things on there, what you'll leave for your future generation, your great grandkids, the rest of the world, and." You get to write 3 things in there. Yeah. It can be your 3 truths: is how to live life, what you should be, how you should carry yourself, and you're leaving it for the rest of the world. It's just on a pen and paper, 3 things.
Definitely, I would want my grandkids to know God, right? So
the first one will be know God.
Yeah, know God. The second thing would be understanding finance.
Understanding finance.
Yeah.
And tell me, why is that important?
Well, because I'm going to leave behind a legacy of work that's going to have value. So I take my wife everywhere with me when it comes to business. I don't hide anything business-wise from my wife. I want her to be in the meetings. I want her to understand the contracts, because when I pass, she's going to be left with this body of work. She needs to understand how the music business works. She needs to understand the value and the worth of whatever music I leave behind and how to profit off of it, so that they don't basically just come up and be like, "Hey, here's $1.5 million, give us everything you got," when they know they can perpetually make $3 to $4 million a year based off this extended catalog. So and so because I teach her that, she will teach them that when it's her time.
Understanding finance.
And should they inherit a sizable amount of money, I need them to know how to manage that money, so that money works for them and they just don't go immediately and buy jewelry and a bunch of cars and stuff like that.
All right. Number 3.
Self-love.
Self-love.
Yeah.
You mind explaining that?
Yeah, it's very important that my children, and particularly my grandchildren, don't have to seek out self-worth or self-value from other people, that they are very aware of their value and their worth, and that they love themselves before they choose to start loving someone else, just so they can protect themselves in this world.
That was deep. That's a good one. I like that one. Now let me ask you. Hip hop culture. We talked about it, and then you said something I forgot to ask you, and you said, "Hey, if my kids or my grandkids inherit something, I don't want them to go run and go buy jewelry and watches or
things
whatever.
Things they don't appreciate.
Things they don't appreciate, right? What is your? I mean, that's the culture that has become a culture, not only hip hop culture, but a society we live in. Okay,
right.
The country we live in. What is your feeling about that?
Well, if you can't buy it 3 times, you shouldn't buy it.
If you can't buy it 3 times,
if you can't buy it 3 times, you shouldn't buy it.
So let's just put it this way: if I want to go buy a $15,000 watch, and that's all I got, $15,000, I shouldn't buy it.
Yeah, if you can't buy 3 of those watches and still live comfortably, you don't need one.
So that means that if I can buy 3 watches and don't have money for my rent, my food, and my 6 months worth of BS.
Or if you basically buying the watch with all the money that took you a while to save up that amount of money to buy a watch, and for $15,000 you're not going to get a watch that necessarily appreciates, right? You have to get into a higher level of watch buying, totally different brands, totally different like Tourbillon, and just it's a whole other world if you're trying to make a watch investment. But $15,000 Rolex watch is not gonna appreciate over time.
Yeah. So don't
unless it's kept for like 30 years and then it becomes.
But if you want to buy anything, and I just said a watch, it can be anything. But if you can't buy 3 of them,
I wouldn't buy it.
That's it. That's a good lesson. Now, how do we teach that lesson to the future generation
By example.
or the kids or stuff like that?
By example.
Okay.
Basically, you let them know. Like I have a Dodge Ram truck.
Okay.
Right? I could probably go and get a Rolls Royce truck if I wanted to, but then that would be a higher level of financial obligation that would take away resources potentially from other things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's not about a comfortable car, it's about a comfortable life. So the first primary purchase you should be investing in is where you're going to live, right? Then you decide what you're going to drive. And all of that stuff should be manageable to a point where you don't have to go above and beyond what's necessary to acquire these things. So if it's going to take a lot of stretching and it's going to eat up a lot of your savings for you to buy that particular car, you don't need that car yet, right? Because the purpose of a car doesn't change based on how much money you spend on a car, right? The basic purpose of a car is to get you from one place to another and back. Right. And so you don't need to spend $500,000 on a car to do that. If you are going to spend $500,000 on a car to do that, you are probably worth $40-50 million, right? Like I know guys that own those cars, they're a lot more liquid than you would think they are for them to decide that that's what they're going to do. So you just have to be smart.
Bun B, I gotta say something. That's something my passion. I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about saving before you spend it. Mm-hmm. I'm passionate about, that's one of my passions. Like, hey, don't buy something that you can't afford. I honestly, truly believe that you should have 6 months to a year rainy fund, because rainy season is always coming.
We're in it right now.
We're in it right now. But how do we educate people? How do we get a platform that people understand, that the people who look at us, oh man, this guy is in Miami, or this guy's in Paris, or this guy's in Cancun, can see us and say, hey, you know what? You should do this first. Save before you spend it.
Oh, wow. What time is it, actually? Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed a call. So I had a conference call today with a good friend of mine. I can't believe I missed it. I'm
sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're good. So I had a call today, and so that's exactly what I'm doing. So it's a friend of mine that works in the finance industry, and that's a concern of his, is how do we educate the next generation properly about finance management, money management. And so we're looking to come together and create a series of financial, like, it would be similar to, God, I can't think of the word right now, but if you went to a forum or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where a setting, I can't think of the name for it, but basically where you go somewhere and people speak to you, right? Okay. So it would be something like that, but on social media, so that everyone has access to it.
You should definitely do that. I talk a lot about it on my page, but I mean, of course, I don't have a big platform, and that's something I'm very passionate about, because I feel like
I'll be calling you.
It makes a big difference.
I'll be calling you to be a guest on it.
Done deal. Hey, well, I appreciate you coming over here and spending your time with me. I know you're a busy guy, man, and I can't thank you enough for doing that, because you can buy me a gift, you can buy me a shirt, you can buy me a meal, but time is something that you can't buy, or no one can buy. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on Make Shit Happen.
Thank you,
Best name ever.
And now, hey, let's go out there and make shit happen, man.
Let's do it, baby.